Hello, and thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Andrew Mensch. I'm the broker manager at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, New Jersey Properties in Verona, New Jersey. As we start tonight, I hope, first of all, that all your families are well and that you continue to be healthy and safe. In my 34 years as a realtor, I've done many annual updates to the public this time of year. Although there's plenty of snow on the ground and more in the forecast, believe it or not, the spring selling season starts unofficially right after the Super Bowl. So here we are. Of all the talks I've given, like much else in life these days, this is different. Who would have thought a year ago that we'd still be in the middle of a pandemic that we were just hearing the beginnings of at this time last year, where our country would have faced such challenges as we have this year as well. Anyway, the real estate market goes on, and it still remains that that home is your most valuable asset. And like any asset, it's worthwhile checking to see how your asset's doing. As realtors, we at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, New Jersey Properties, want to be your forever brand, not just here to buy and sell houses for you and with you, but to be there for you when you want to talk about whether you should remodel, how should you remodel to get your most money for it. If you're doing estate planning and you need a value on your house, want to grieve your taxes, anything that you need in between sales and in between purchases, we're here for you. So I'd like to introduce two guests that are with us this evening. The first is Chris Brown, the president of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, New Jersey Properties. Chris, you need to shorten that name. It's too long. And Sarah Fanul, New Jersey sales manager for our great mortgage partner, Prosperity Home Mortgages. So please feel free to ask any questions using the chat button on your screen, and we'll answer those at the end. And for now, I'd like to introduce Chris Brown, the president of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services.
Thank you, Andrew. I don't know if you wanted me to shorten the Christopher or the Berkshire Hathaway part. But
the Berkshire Hathaway
on both. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to what is our third market update for the Essex County region. And thank you, Andrew, for putting this on and making this event happen tonight. We trust that everyone is well and is staying safe. As Andrew said, my name is Chris Brown. I'm president of Berkshire Hathaway, New Jersey Properties. I thought it'd be helpful for all of you to know a little bit about us before we begin. We have been a real estate company in one form or another since 1954. We currently have 17 offices stretching from Morris County to Monmouth County, Essex County to Hunterdon County. And we have close to 900 sales professionals, as well as a very close relationship with Prosperity Home Mortgage and Associated Title. We are a full service real estate company, and we cover a large portion of the New Jersey market and, quite frankly, the world through our Berkshire Hathaway referral network. But for tonight's purposes, we're going to bring you a more focused snapshot of the Essex County marketplace. It has been an interesting year. I know that is an understatement. As we approach March, we will be at the 1-year anniversary of our state being shut down over the COVID crisis. At that time, we had no idea what that would mean to our lives, let alone the real estate market. And while we are still not 100% clear, the vaccines are coming, and hopefully there is light at the end of the tunnel for all of us. Regarding the real estate market, it turned out to be one of the best years that we have had in a long time. Not just New Jersey, but for most of the country. As a company, we were basically even with our 2019 production, but in 2020, we did all of that production in 10 months versus 12 months, as we were basically shut down in March and April of last year. We have all learned to buy and sell real estate in compliance with the CDC guidelines while keeping everyone safe and working with people at their comfort levels. Things are about as normal as they can be given the circumstances. While Andrew will discuss more statistics and market thoughts, I wanted to take a moment to discuss one of the casualties that came from last year, and that is our very low current inventory. Throughout most of the country, we are at all-time lows for houses coming to market. Some of the reasons, well, many of you have heard and maybe even experienced the families that are in high density areas such as New York City, Hoboken, Weehawken, et cetera, have decided to move further west or to Connecticut or out to Long Island for a house and a yard. And many people living in the suburbs don't know where to go or can't find a place to move to yet, whether they're retiring or moving up or down in size. It's creating a marketplace where there are a lot more buyers and sellers. While usually we experience this to a certain extent in springtime, this year it's even more accentuated. But the good news is that across the country, I heard today that houses are selling in about 17 days, which is one of the quickest time frames that we have ever experienced. So, is it a good time to sell your home? The simple answer is yes, but of course, it always depends on your particular situation, and that is why it is critical to speak to a real estate professional. This is an extremely difficult and frenzied time to sell your property and to buy a property. And the help of someone who can navigate these unusual times is critical to having a successful outcome. It's not just about selling your home at the highest price. Of course, we can do that for you. It's about everything else that goes along with completing the sale, including handling the buyers, offers, dealing with all the realtors, inspections, contracts, state and local municipal laws, and the list goes on and on and on. So I encourage all of you, if you're thinking about selling now or in this near spring, to reach out to one of us for not only our thoughts on pricing and marketing, but for the help in guiding you through this complicated market. We are experts at taking all that is online and offline and helping you make sense of it in your situation. Thanks again for joining us this evening. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who will walk us through an update of the market. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to share my screen with everybody. And one thing we've learned this year is how to use Zoom. So I want to, I'm going to start today with a wide look at the market, going nationwide, starting with our national statistics. This is national existing single-family home sales. So this doesn't include new homes, doesn't include condos and co-ops, but nationally, sales were up totally 6.3% with an average price that was up over 9% this year. And we look at the Northeast area, according to the National Association of Realtors, which is New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and the New England states. We've got not as many sales, but because there are not as many sales and not as much inventory, we've got an average price that's up 13.2%, which is a pretty big jump, the biggest one that I've ever seen. So when we look more locally, I put together Morris, Essex, and Passaic sales, not only because it gives us a wider view, but because there are people here who are not necessarily in Essex County who are joining us today. These three counties together have a population of almost 1.9 million people. If it was its own state, these three counties would be the 40th most populous state in the country. So it's a much wider look of the market. And what I wanted to do is give a historic outlook, look back at what was going on in the market and what's gone and where we are today. So if we start back in 2001, there's some big events that happened, obviously, in the country in the last 20 years. The first one, of course, being September 11th. Where we thought that might hurt the market, of course, we had a bit of a dip in the market, but because of the unfortunate circumstance, we had people who wanted to move out of the city and into the suburbs, kind of in a way the way we are now. The numbers went up. And as interest rates came up, the number of sales, this has got nothing to do with prices, the number of sales fell as we got into the mortgage crisis and we got into the Great Recession where AIG failed and the big car companies declared bankruptcy. Things improved over the years, and it took us almost 15 years here to get back to the level of sales that we were at the beginning when we were at our peak in 2005. So we were afraid. Chris and I, and the rest of our team, were in meetings on a daily basis talking about what was going to happen to the market as it was March and April. And it turned out we were pleasantly surprised to see that the numbers actually went up and we had more sales this year than 2020 than 19. When you go on to prices, it's a similar number where it took us this long to recover from the dip that we had starting into the Great Recession and the recovery from that. Moving closer in, the West Essex County towns that I'm going to discuss tonight are these 12. The numbers do hold for the other towns around it, but this is what I've been researching and working on for the last year. So this is what I'm presenting because it gives a good representation of what's going on in the county. This year, total numbers, we had 4,310 closings. Our closings were up total of 7.5%, not quite what the national numbers were, but the average price was up 11.5%. And days on market, which is an important number. So the number of days between the time that you list your house and the time that it goes under contract was down 17.5%. It's 43 days. And that day at the height, at the worst part of the market was close to 90. So what that means is not only is it more efficient and easier for people to sell their houses, but if they're closing that much earlier, it's that much more equity that they're getting because they're not paying their taxes and their mortgage payments for the extra month or two that it would take normally, that it took in the past to sell their house. The other number that's so important is the sales to listing price. And this is the average number, and some are higher and some are lower, as in any average. But the average house sells for 103% of its listing price, which means it's selling for more than what it's listed for. And that's really a remarkable number when that's an average. We've had towns before where that's been a high number. Usually Montclair is up there, but there's some other towns that have high numbers, but it's never across the board been above 100% for everybody. So you have to look at this as the new listings versus under contract listings. So if you look in the towns at the number of listings that were taken every week since COVID started, this goes back to the beginning of March. You can see here where COVID took place and we started to shut down. People weren't listing their houses, obviously. They didn't know what was going on, whether they didn't want people in their homes. The numbers started coming back as we discovered how to work with masks and how to be safe. And you can see dips in the market, like 4th of July weekend, which was over a holiday, which was over a weekend this year. And we had fewer people listing their house that week. So this really has really direct numbers for every week that we have. As you see, the numbers went down toward the end of the year, which they usually do. Usually, around the holiday time, those numbers go down. And then after the first of the year, they come up. What's happened in the last couple of weeks is this number's gone down again, and we'll have to see if that's a trend that continues. Now, think about this. The red line that I'm about to put on here is the number of homes that went under contract during those same weeks. So in a regular market, say this is right before COVID started, you had 110 homes coming on the market and about 60 or so that were going under contract. As COVID started, the number of new homes stayed with the number of under contracts. You see, they follow almost directly, but there's a short period here where there's more homes going under contract than coming on the market, which you would expect given what was going on with COVID. But all through here, just this past week, and all through this section here, you've got more homes going under contract than coming on the market. It's like if you owned a store and you had someone coming in and buying 100 items from your store, and there were times that the loading dock would come in, the truck would come in a loading dock and only unload 90 items. It becomes tough to run your store. And that's what we're running into. And that's where the high prices come in. And that's where the multiple offers come in. So what we have here is, although I talked about broader markets, markets are really hyper local. They vary from town to town and even communities within a town. So it's best to know what your local market is and what's going on right around your property. So what we can do is we can provide a real estate review to keep up with your most valuable asset. What this is this is just a snapshot of your area. It could be town-wide, or it can be your specific community if you live in a condo community, or if you live in a section of a town that may have different pricing. And all it's giving you is it's giving you the listing prices, the selling prices. It's not a competitive market analysis. And it's not an appraisal, but it just gives you a snapshot, like you would anything that you look up. If you had a mutual fund and you were going online to see how your mutual fund was doing, this is the same thing, and it's always worthwhile to know. And I can provide this for you for your particular community. As you see on the bottom of each of these slides is my phone number and my email address, and we can provide that for anybody who would like that. If you look at the relationship between mortgage rates and affordability, you're going to see how dramatically lower rates have changed the market in real estate. Let's take a $300,000 mortgage. If you're looking to buy a house with a $300,000 mortgage back in 2018 with a rate of 4.54%, your monthly payment would be $1,572, and your total payment for the entire loan, if you finish your loan, is $549,000 and change. Now that goes down to this year, $1,200. Now you're saving $372 a month and a total over the term of the loan of $133,000, almost $134,000. Now let's jump up to a $700,000 mortgage with the same numbers, and you're going from a $3,500 payment, almost $3,600 payment, down to $2,800. So you're saving $763 a month and $274,000, almost $275,000 over the term of the loan. If we look at it a different way, let's look at your mortgage budget being $1,500 a month, because people qualify based on what they can afford. Often people are buying on payment, not buying on the size of the mortgage. So if your mortgage payment budget is $1,500 a month in 2018, you could qualify for a $284,700 mortgage. That number is up to $375,000, which means that you can afford an extra $80,000 worth of mortgage for the same mortgage payment of about $1,500 a month. It's a dramatic increase. Part of that has been absorbed by the higher prices in real estate due to the shortage, but it keeps everybody in the market and keeps the market going. Let's jump up now to a $4,000 a month mortgage, where at 4.54%, you're getting $785,000 that you can borrow. That number at 2.64 is up to $1 million, and you are saving, you're borrowing an extra $214,200. So you can qualify for a larger house for the same payment. So this dramatically affects, it widens the amount of people who can look at any house in any price range, because the lower the interest, the more you can put toward principal and the more house you can afford. So next, let's hear from Sarah Fanul, my friend and colleague from Prosperity Home Mortgage. Nice to see you, Sarah.
Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate you having me on. I wanted to introduce myself and my company. My name is Sarah Fanul. I'm the Regional Sales Manager for Prosperity Home Mortgage. We've been supporting Berkshire Hathaway of New Jersey properties for the last 3 years. We have offices in 48 states, and just as Berkshire Hathaway, we had a banner year in 2020. We originated over $14 billion in loans last year. All projections are for 2021 to be as busy as last year as well. 85% of our business is purchase. Our business model is to support real estate agents. So we're there for Berkshire Hathaway and our real estate companies. Our loan officers are local. Our operational staff is local. We have our own appraisal panel, no management companies, and we have completely adapted to the COVID world with the virtual application and closings, which has really helped with the social distancing. So the good news is interest rates are low, as Andrew said. They continue to be low, and they seem to be that they will continue even the same pace in 2021. Additionally, the 2021 conventional loan limits in Essex, Morris, and Passaic counties has increased to $822,375 from $765,600 in 2020. The combination of lower interest rates and increase in the conforming loan limits allows a borrower to qualify for more of a home, as Andrew just previously said. Additionally, property appreciation has surged to its highest level since 2014. The sharp rise in housing demand and record low interest rates has helped to bolster homeowners' equity. So what does that mean? This means it's a very competitive market. As Andrew had pointed out, the lack of inventory has caused multiple bids on homes. For listing agents, you need to make sure your offers are strong. For buyers and buyer's agents, you want to make sure your offer will be accepted. These waters are not easy to navigate alone. You need professionals who know the marketplace and are local to your area. You need to make sure you have good guidance from both real estate professionals and mortgage professionals. So how can we help you do that? We can strengthen your offer by having a buyer have a fully underwritten commitment letter, not a pre-approval, but a full mortgage commitment. The seller wants to make sure that its offer is strong and they will close. This allows you to do that with a buyer's advantage. You have a fully underwritten loan with a mortgage commitment, gives the seller and listing agent peace of mind knowing that the offer is strong and will be able to close in a timely fashion. So what does this mean for buyers? there are 4 things the buyers should remember to do. You need to continue to pay your mortgage and other obligations if possible. In this COVID environment, it's if possible. I mean, it's tough right now. So you need to keep good records regarding your finances, your income, your assets, if you had unemployment or you were furloughed, and if you went into forbearance. If you're self-employed, you need to make sure your business is viable and strong. You need to talk to a mortgage consultant and a real estate agent prior to for guidance to ensure you stay on the right path in this current environment. As I said, and as Chris said, it is it's navigating through these rough waters to make an offer so that it can be as strong as possible on the house that you want to get. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, thank you. So what are we doing during COVID-19? We are obviously paying attention to guidance from the New Jersey Association of Realtors, from the CDC, and from the New Jersey Department of Health. We have changed our offices. So for example, so that anybody coming in has their temperature taken, and we're doing contact tracing so that if, hopefully it won't happen, but if COVID reaches our office, we'll be able to contact the people and make sure everybody stays healthy. That's within our offices in our company. As far as showing houses, we've got protocols for open houses. This is used for buyers, and then we've got one for sellers about how to keep things clean. Things like when you're showing a house, when you're the seller, it's going to cost an extra couple of bucks, but leave your house and leave all your light switches on. And brokers who are typically turn the lights off as they leave a house are just leaving them on because we just want to make this as touch-free as possible, as just one example of what we're doing. But we're making sure with a COVID release form that we have every buyer and every seller sign before they see a house, that we're asking the questions that we would ask when anybody would come into our businesses or even into our own homes. They're saying, have you been out of state? Have you been in contact with anybody who's got COVID? And you're signing off that the buyers and sellers are signing off that everything is safe. Also, we are doing, if we're contacting somebody, if we've been in contact with somebody, like I personally was earlier with COVID, I did the quarantine that I'm supposed to do, and I shown houses the last few weeks, and I contacted those realtors so they could make their sellers aware that I had been in contact. Luckily, I tested negative, and I also called back to let the homeowners know that. But the more disclosure that we can offer, the safer we can keep everybody. And keeping everybody safe is far more important than any house that we sell. We have adopted virtual showing and transaction technology. As we see here tonight, we're on Zoom. Our company has made a major investment in MoxieWorks to upgrade our programs and our platforms so we can communicate with our buyers and sellers virtually as easily as possible. Real Scout is a great program that we have, so we can, again, virtually talk to our buyers and sellers, make appointments, and provide listings and listing leads to them when we're working with buyers. And ZipForm is our company-wide and also really a realtor-wide standard for doing electronic documents where we can do a completely touchless listing appointment. What's changed in listings is where we would go and sit at your kitchen table and have a long conversation with you. What we've been doing is going into the house, seeing the property, taking some notes, and then leaving, doing our listing presentation, putting it together. Then we use MoxieWorks and Zoom to have a listing appointment with you without being face-to-face, without having to expose anybody. And then when we do win the listing, we use zip forms in order to sign everything. So everything is kept as much as we can, as touchless and as far apart to keep everybody safe. So for home sellers, we've got some tips and some steps. Home sellers, we always ask to make repairs as we determine the value of their home. As we're working through it, we establish and develop a marketing plan and a budget. And we prepare our professional ads. We target our out-of-town buyers, and we obviously arrange for a yard sign, and we schedule, if this is okay with the buyer, with the sellers, open houses. Open houses are not automatic the way they used to be. And when they are done, they're done safely without having crowds of people in your house. They're done one group at a time. We're preparing fact sheets. We're always available to help you show your house if needed. And we go through all the way through, negotiating the offer, gathering all the disclosures, planning our final walkthrough, and we locate and negotiate, hopefully, for your next home. For buyers, we're working with the buyers now, as we always are, to determine the budget that they have, help them get pre-qualified with help of Prosperity. We're determining their needs, scheduling appointments, and we're helping them negotiate, finding inspectors, attorneys. We're holding their hands, at least virtually, from beginning to end. And we come up with often inspection issues that we deal with between the buyers and the sellers. You got to remember that for a buyer, if you're paying over asking price, you are expecting a lot more than if you're negotiating to begin with. We're managing the appraisals, and often they're doing, Sarah can talk about this, we do desktop appraisals. So they're doing desktop appraisals so that they're not coming into your house to do an appraisal for your house. And we manage the home inspection, repairs, and overcome everything to make sure that your home closes. There's a lot of steps. Finding the house and getting the accepted offer is just the beginning of what we do. So here are my thoughts on what is going to be for 2021 and beyond. We're still going to remain low with inventory, and I've got some new numbers that I'll share in just a minute. I just got them about an hour ago, hot off the press. Interest rates are low for now, for the near future. Homeowners' needs are changing. We have lots of people who are selling their houses and buying new houses because they suddenly need a home office, because suddenly they need an extra room for the kids, because they just need, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Because their needs are changing, and we need to make sure that they have what they want. Our westward migration continues, meaning that people are still coming from the city and from the river towns to the suburbs. It's a natural flow that's always occurred even without COVID, and is still going to occur. People who are in apartments, when they decide, if and when they decide to have families or they want a little bit more room, they come to Essex County and beyond for a place to live, and it's just a natural migration. And this is happening all through the tri-state area, but New Jersey is the one that we know and we love, and that's what we're talking about tonight. New Jersey is still the place to be, but work has changed. It becomes more attractive maybe to be a little further out in the city, from the city, if they're going to go back, if companies are going back to plans where you're not working at the office 5 days a week. If you've got to commute 2 days a week instead of 5 days a week, it becomes a little bit more attractive to me, maybe be a little bit further out and get a little bit more for your money. But New York City is still the place to work. And that's shown by Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and lots of other companies that have recently taken on new space. They're not moving out, they're moving in. And starting, hopefully later this year, corporate relocations will resume. A big part of our business is corporate relocations for major companies, and given the the restrictions of COVID and obviously trying to keep their employees safe, they've put their relocations on hold. Also, they're not sure what's going to happen if people are decentralized and you can work from anywhere. They may not relocate or may not relocate everybody. So we've got people always coming in and always people who are leaving. We've handled people where their companies moved out of New Jersey and into New Jersey, and it's been a big part of our business, and that's something that should be coming back, probably later in the year as we have more vaccines. So here's the question that everyone has to ask. If houses are selling and flying off the shelf, why hire a realtor? So we have the experience to price right for the market. We have the proven tools. We've got a system with over 900 websites where we put your home on the market so that you can get the widest audience. And the wider audience brings an increased interest to the house. And handling delicate multiple offers is a key to this. We often have homes that have 5 or 6 or 10 or even 20 offers on it. And managing those, finding the right offer is so touchy and really takes a professional to do. It's not always the highest dollar amount that is the right offer, because the person may not be able to move when you need to move, or the person may have a great, maybe putting down may have a little bit lower offer, but they're paying cash and they're not getting a mortgage. There are all kinds of facets to look at, and it's not just the highest dollar amount. So we've got to help you find the best offer that best suits your needs. And of course, we're tracking the details to get to the closing, and we're handling COVID protocol, which is always important. So if you're a buyer, we help you determine your needs and find you the right property. We offer alternatives often, and I'll tell you, I am a case in point. I moved to New Jersey 12 years ago, and I told the realtor who I was working with that I don't like contemporary homes. Now, anybody who's been to my house can see from the outside of it, it's a very contemporary home. And the agent was smart and said, let me just show this to you. Here's an alternative that you may not have considered. And here I am, I bought the house, and that's where I'm sitting right now. So we help prepare your offer and showcase your terms in a competitive market. We want to make you look as good as possible so that if there are 10 offers, we have to make sure that your offer looks good, that we have a great pre-qualification, that we've got all your papers in order, and that we've got all your terms the way they should be. We track the details to get to the closing. And as I said before, handling COVID protocol is very important. And nobody, either the buyer side or the seller side, obviously nobody wants to be more exposed than they need to be with that. So my last that I have is, as I said, is I've got some, let me just get rid of this for a second. Get rid of that. All right, so the last that I have is, as I said, I actually texted Chris right at the end of the, at the beginning of the call. I got some, the hot off the press new numbers for 2021. And I feel a little bit like it's election night and the polls closed 5 minutes ago. So it's too close to call as to what's going to happen. But the beginning of the year says that last year, between January 1st and February 28th, 428 new listings were taken in the 12 towns that I mentioned before. This year, that number is 315. So already that number is down. Of those houses, of the 315 properties, 138 of them are already under contract. 2 of them have closed, and we have accepted offers where an attorney review, where people are on in attorney review on 24 more of those, 24 more properties. So that's 52% of everything that's come on the market is either gone or on its way out already. So this continues to be a very tight market. And our expertise is needed, as Chris and I were saying, as much as ever before. So if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to take them.
Andrew, I noticed that Sue Magenta's on the call tonight, and Sue is our relocation director. And Sue, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, but Andrew mentioned relocation, and maybe you could just give us a couple minutes on where you see relocation for 2021, what's happening with some of the group moves and so on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I had the pleasure of speaking with Andrew yesterday. Just what I shared was there's still a lot of uncertainty is probably the best way to put it. Certainly understanding that we've been existing with, travel restrictions, people needing to quarantine, and what needs to be done to get people, not just domestic moves, but the, certainly the international moves has just caused companies to slow down. So moves that were initiated probably a year ago, let's say, they're not expected to be canceled, but they have told the employees to stay where they are. And just kind of give them more time to sort of manage and manage this moment. What I've heard from some companies is that this year might be interesting in that there will be some corporations that will say, okay, we've tried to ride this moment, but there becomes a time where they have to make the decision of where the employee will be working because of tax purposes, right? So their offices is in a certain place. They've been sort of hunkering down in another location, and they have to manage that with their accounting and their HR, and they may not want to continue doing that through another year, let's say. So it'll be interesting to see if they do require moves to sort of no longer be given extensions for, let's say, and say that they need people to move by a certain date. We have,
And obviously, we handle
sorry?
people coming into the state as well as out of the state. So buyers coming in, it's going to be a tight market for them, and people leaving are going to be in a good position to sell their house.
Yeah, so a month ago, I did do a presentation for a company who's coming into New Jersey. They have a sister company here, so they're slightly familiar with our market and the lay of our land. But that was the big question was, what's inventory like when we come? And that is, Andrew just addressed that. It is, we're in a tight market that way. So they had, this particular group move, they had given employees through the fall to come. And some individuals are looking to move that up. Personal reasons, perhaps they have children in school and they want to get them into the school system for September. So we'll see what happens. But it was nice to know that, and we heard about this early fall, towards the end of last year, that this company was coming our way and right into our marketplace. So some of that activity is good to see. I will say doing a presentation virtually, I've done it before. Not my preference. I like to be able to be there for the individual questions, because so often a coworker is not willing to raise their hand and ask something that's really important to them in front of their colleagues. So I know I lose something in doing it in this manner, but I made myself available, put out my phone number and email, and then people start coming and asking some questions, and that's what we need to do. And very much what Andrew said is just listen to what their needs are and see how we can guide them.
That's great. Well, we're in a great state for relocation, and we, of course, with the Berkshire name, control a lot of the relocation coming in and out of the state. So I know when it starts to pick up again, we'll be there for it. Andrew, any other questions that you see in chat or?
Christian?
This is like the smartest audience I've ever seen. They've absorbed everything. They've taken good notes. So you've got a brilliant audience tonight, Andrew.
Thank you. No, as I said at the beginning, it's a very challenging time for all of us. Buyers, sellers, and us as realtors. It's been a very challenging year personally and professionally. And whoever's out there tonight who's done business with us, I want to thank you for your business and your confidence in us. And whoever's out there who is a Berkshire Hathaway agent who happens to be joining us, thanks for all your support this year. It's been rough, as we know, but we're finding new ways to get it done. And as I said, the real estate reviews are available. And if anybody wants one, they can contact me directly and I can give them one for their specific area. If it's anything that anybody else needs, I can put you in touch with the agent you've worked with or find someone for you if you haven't worked with us yet. We'd be glad to help you. And I thank you for your time.
Andrew, if I may, I have a question. This is David.
Hi.
Hi. And I want to thank you and Mr. Longtitle, or Chris, for your helpful presentation. I have a question. You guys have kind of touched on it, but for my thinking, given the low inventory, the low supply, are people moving? Are people moving? Are they really selling their homes to provide that new inventory, or are things kind of at a standstill in respect of people moving?
Well, they were at a standstill at the beginning, through April, May, and June. But we had months in June and July that we did as much business in June and July as we did for the whole third of the year last year. So we've caught up. Our office in particular had our listings taken last year were up 32%. But the market is about even with listings. Another number that I pulled that I didn't share was that there were what they call, what are new listings coming on the market. It's about even. There were about 4,270 in 2019 and 4,222 last year. So they're off by about 60, but it's fairly even. It's not that there are definitely people who are not moving because they're concerned about COVID. And there are other people who are taking advantage of the market. And if you have a second place to go, if you've got some place, and maybe strategically it's worth renting, because you're never going to get, this is, I think, a once in a lifetime market with low interest rates, very high interest in people moving, and it's a great time to move. And I think that for buyers, if it's a long-term proposition, numbers go up and numbers go down. But as I showed in my charts of, over the long term, your house has value, and you'll break even or you'll make some money on it.
Thank you.
David, let me just add this too, that I think if you look out your window right now, there's a little bit of snow out there, right? So that unfortunately has absolutely slowed down our market over the past couple of weeks. We are coming into the seasonal spring market. It really starts after Super Bowl. That was Sunday. I think the snow has hampered us a bit, but we fully expect to see more inventory coming on towards the end of February, into March, into April. And I'm not sure it's going to get back to normal until the summer. I think we're going to be at an inventory deficit for a while, but we will see things start to pick up. There's a lot of people out there like me with some gray hair that are baby boomers that have been waiting for this time to retire and waiting for this time to sell their house. We're, as Andrew's great stats pointed out, we're just getting back to some of the high levels in pricing from where we were back in 08, 09, 10. So it's a great time for someone who's thinking about heading south or north or wherever they're going to retire to put their house on the market. So I think we will see that inventory build over the next 60, 90 days.
Yeah, this winter is definitely colder than last winter. You got to remember that if you're comparing winter to winter in the 6 weeks that I compared, last winter was very mild. I can't remember, I think, taking my snow shovel out once. Definitely never started. I never put gas on my snowblower last year versus this year, where we've had where I live, we've had 30 inches of snow. Also, last year we didn't have COVID, and this year we do. So there are two big differences that would be slowing the market down a little bit. Hopefully, we know the snow is going to melt. That's definitely, and thank God the vaccines are on their way, and things are hopefully going to loosen up. It may take a few months, but it'll get done.
Any other questions or thoughts? All right. Okay. Andrew, thank you so much for tonight. Really appreciate it. I always learn something when I listen to you. Appreciate you putting this together.
It's my pleasure. Thanks everybody for joining us, and continue to stay safe and healthy.
Thank
We'll
you,
see you soon.
Andrew.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Andrew.
Okay.